Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Monday afternoon and Monday evening, very late in Lisbon, Portugal, where Bontemps has returned, completing his 4 trips over the Atlantic in the last week to make sure he could be at the live show. Mr. Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
And joining us from Los Angeles, where he's relocated from Las Vegas, the Mavericks announced the Cooper Flag was done playing in Summer League, and that meant MacMahon was done being there himself.
Howdy, partners. Looking forward to a spirited summer edition of the Hoop Collective here.
Well, that's what we deliver. Okay, so we had a great time with the podcast over the weekend. Thanks to everybody who came out. If you got to see it or listen to it on the various platforms, I hope you enjoyed it. We really appreciate Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie from the Timberwolves and Nick Nurse from the 76ers for joining us, and the Corsi Machine, Kevin Pelton. And there was some business that was done over the weekend, pretty significant business for the league. Summer League, there's a lot of young guys playing. There's some interesting storylines and those develop, but there was big business done over the weekend. The Oklahoma City Thunder officially signed both J-Dub, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. I think Holmgren actually signing took place on Sunday to brand new maximum contract extensions. And with the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander extension that took place, I think he signed it last week sometime too. But over those 7 days, they locked in their championship core for the next 5 years. The contracts have no opt-outs, which is obviously something that the Thunder wanted. And they're going to be expensive. There's no doubt about that. Shai signed what was the largest contract on average annual value in NBA history until Devin Booker officially signs his contract, but it's going to be over $70 million a year in value. And Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams both got max contracts, 25% max, the quote unquote fun max that is not so fun in the new CBA with the second apron. So Bontemps, they're going to be an expensive team. That's the reality, but a couple of things here. One, the Thunder are not going to be paying them that big money this upcoming season. Holmgren and Williams remain in their current, rookie scale contracts. So not only will the Thunder not have any sort of money crunch as they try to defend, but even they probably won't even pay the luxury tax. I don't even think yet again. So they have a potential to compete for their championship without paying the luxury tax. And because they haven't paid the luxury tax, they haven't even started their repeater clock yet. So Bontemps, while this is definitely going to bite into them, and this is what the new CBA is designed to keep a team like this from being able to stay together for the long term, this is really good news for the Thunder to have these guys all under contracts with no player options.
Yeah, I mean, having 3 under, I guess Shai's just over 25, but under, 26 and under star level players under contract for the rest of the decade is a pretty awesome place to be. And yeah, like they're going to have some real decisions to make going forward. After this season, we'll see what Hartenstein's future is in OKC, what Windhorst's future is in OKC, eventually what a Case and Wallace extension is going to look like in OKC. Whether they're not going to be able to keep everybody on this team, but you look to try to find guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. They all showed that they could be part of a team that can win a title, obviously, over the last couple of months. And, as MacMahon has talked about a bunch, Chet Holmgren spent most of last season either injured or recovering from being injured and never really was at full strength. And before he got hurt, he was looking like he was probably their second best player. And that's on a team where Jalen Williams was a deserving All-NBA player, had a 40-piece in the finals, and did all that while dealing with a wrist injury throughout the playoffs himself. So, we spent the last, year at least talking about how great a situation the Thunder are in, and getting these guys locked up is just one of many reasons why that's the case. And I suspect they're going to be able to weather the financial storm coming pretty well too.
And Dub did get Supermax eligibility in his contract, and I like his odds. He was All-NBA this year. Certainly did a lot to boost his reputation during that playoff run, and would think he's going to have a good shot at being All-NBA again next year, especially with some of the other All-NBA candidates. Unfortunately, not going to be able to play next season. But you hit the 2 guys who are going to kind of be the first pressure points as far as like the long-term financial picture of the Thunder. And, it's Lou Dort, who I believe, is that a team or a player option for Lou in the last year of his deal?
It is a player option.
It's a player option. So
team option for both he and
club
Isaiah
option. You're right. Team
okay,
option.
that's what I thought.
Player.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Lou Dort club option at $17.7 million for 26-27, and then Isaiah Hartenstein at $28.5 million. But again, we'll see what happens there. But the point is, they're making their difficult decisions will start at the fourth, fifth, sixth spots on the roster, not first, second, third. They've got those three guys locked up long term, and then Sam Presti's done a great job of using some of his first round picks already. He's got just a bundle of those things to come. But you look at Cason Wallace. Now, I think Cason Wallace is going to be positioned for a pretty nice contract himself, but he is a potential Lou Dort replacement if it doesn't work out to where Lou will be there long term. And I don't think it's out of the question that Lou could end up being there for years to come. Same thing with Hartenstein. They just drafted this big guy out of Georgetown, Thomas Sorber, who long arm, shot blocker, nice passer, very Hartenstein-esque type of player. We'll see if after his rookie season he's a rotation candidate or not. But that the whole point of Presti having so many picks and continuing to kind of push those picks into the future is to be able to manage the payroll when some of these tough decisions come up. And he's got so many swings at it that they can afford to lose some rotation players and still be able to put a championship caliber supporting cast around their three stars.
Yeah, so let me go over the raw math. So this upcoming season, 25-26, Shea, Holmgren, and J-Dub are going to cost about $59 million between the three of them put together. $59 million, all right? That is, the value of that is insane. So yeah. that's what so next year, 26-27, when Chet and J-Dub's new money come on, the three of them are going to cost about $120 million. That is still, for three-star players, very, very good. For example, in that same year, Tatum and Jalen Brown are going to cost a little bit less than that. Two studs, but 3 versus 2. Then and by the way, in 26-27, the sort of the first big cash year for all three of them, Holmgren and J-Dub are actually going to be making more than SGA slightly, because that's going to be the last year of SGA's legacy contract, the last year of the Fund Max. So that's actually amazing. Then the Supermax kicks in and he gets a $20 million raise. And in 27-28, the three of them combined will earn $150 million. So that's where, that's where the tough choices come in either way. And they will be in trouble. Not trouble, but they will have challenges about re-signing guys between now and then, the role players. But still, the next 2 years, they're still at discounts. So they can compete, for championships with these three guys and probably still be able to outfit the rest of the roster for the next 2 years. This is the thing that happened, Bontemps, with the Celtics. The Celtics, as they were signing these guys to big numbers, they still saw themselves having a window before they got squeezed. And in year 2 of that sort of 3-year window, they won the title. In year 3 of the window, unfortunately, Tatum got hurt. But they had a team, a 60-win team, that was favored to win the championship. And then things went sideways on them. But that's where the Thunder, before the Thunder sort of have the pressures that the Celtics just had, they will still have 2 more seasons. And what the Celtics didn't have that the Thunder are going to get, as you guys mentioned, are other teams' draft picks between now and then. They've already got other teams' draft picks. The Celtics were drafting guys in the late 20s. The Baylor Shiremans of the world, whereas the Thunder are bringing in lottery guys. They've got 2 lottery picks in this year's, will be rookies this year, who have yet to play. Maybe neither of them will work out. I don't know, but that's where they're different. So while it is definitely a challenge, this is something to celebrate, and no team could possibly be more ready for this than the Thunder. Maybe they won't win the next 2 years. I mean, there's a lot of different variables that you can't predict, but they are very well positioned. And this year alone, I mean, in 2 years, when Shea's salary kicks in, when the new Supermax he just signed actually kicks in, he's going to be making $60 million, okay? Earned every dime. This year, the three of them will earn 59.5.
Well,
So,
and
it's amazing.
think about the profit they're going to be making, right?
Well, that's
As
true.
a team not paying luxury tax. So you're getting luxury tax payments, and they just had, I don't know how many of the, I think it was 12 of 23 playoff games or home games, something like that. A ton of home playoff gates. I would anticipate they'll get a lot of home playoff gates next season as well. And then what happens in 2028? They're opening up a new arena. You think there's going to be some revenue generated from that new arena that is costing Clay Bennett, the Thunder owner, a grand total of $50 million? I mean, he's paying less for the arena than he's going to be paying SGA's salary.
That's true.
It was also interesting on this topic. It flew under the radar during the finals, but Barry Trammell, our friend from the Tulsa World, had a story. I believe it either ran right after the finals or during them that insinuated that, not even insinuated, had sources telling him that sometime in the somewhat near future, the Thunder will be sold, which in concert with how fast the teams, how fast the valuations of teams around the league are going up. It also would be reminiscent somewhat of what happened with the Celtics, who had a very expensive team and sold the team as it was getting very expensive, and as hard decisions are going to have to be made about payroll and potentially losing guys off teams that's a championship level team. Now, he did not say the Thunder are going to be sold today or tomorrow, but they have been a remarkably stable organization the entire time they've been in Oklahoma City, with Clay Bennett essentially handing the keys to Sam Presti and saying, do your thing, and I'm not going to get in the way. And that will be very interesting if that does come to pass, both the timing of when it happens and also who takes over, because, they have been in many ways a model franchise for their tenure in Oklahoma City. And we've seen a lot of new owners have a lot of impacts, a lot of places, and it's just something that bears watching.
A little new owner syndrome.
We've seen it a time or two.
I would hope there's not a new owner syndrome situation if you've got a potential dynasty on your hands. I would hope you maybe would trust the guy who's built that and has positioned it to be an extended window.
Well, I will say this.
Just let him work.
Bontemps does bring something interesting up. Out of everything that we just discussed, I would say everything is all green lights for the Thunder, despite, the things that we know. There's a reason, but Bontemps wrote a story at the end of the season about how the Thunder are in position, the better team, is as good as team as we've seen, to buck the trend of 7 consecutive different champions. That, in a dynasty, a largely dynasty-proof league, Bontemps laid out, as some of the stuff we just did here, why the Thunder might be able to overcome that trend. And we just said with all the money, they should be able to afford it and be okay. That report that Barry Trammell put out, and to my knowledge, that was, nobody disputed that. At least I didn't see a dispute. But the quote he used is that quite likely they'll consider selling the franchise in the next few years, or the near future, I should say. That was probably more relevant than any of the other stuff that happened with the sales, because you just don't know what would happen. And the Thunder, Clay Bennett is the Thunder's governor, but the Thunder are owned. I think there's 3 businessmen that own roughly the same percentage. They all own the same percentage. Clay Bennett has the control share. But there's other things at stake, and all of them are over the age of 65. And in the case of the Celtics, in addition to how expensive they were going to be, one of the driving principles for the reason that the Celtics are being sold is that Irving Grusbach, who is the controlling owner, he owns the largest share. His son, Wick, is the governor, is 90 years old, and he's doing estate planning. And he also knew that with the new media rights deal that franchise values would be very high. So he took a championship team with high franchise values facing estate things, and that's what led to it. But all that is to say, if you're an NBA team and you've been hearing a lot of stuff about second apron stuff, and you may be thinking to yourself, well, that's got to bite the Thunder in the next couple of years. I don't think it's going to, and the reason is, number one, that Sam Presti and his staff have drafted very well so that developed these young players are good before their salaries balloon. And also Sam Presti had 3 years to evaluate how to manage the second apron coming in. And he managed it well, like with the contracts he signed Lou Dort and Isaiah Hartenstein too. So,
well, and other contracts, Hartenstein was highest in year one, then flat the next couple of years. Isaiah Joe is a descending deal. Aaron Wiggins is a descending deal. Jalen Williams, the center, is highest in year one, then flat. Same with AJ Mitchell, the guard. Like, none of this stuff, none of these, concerns are like catching Sam Presti off guard. He's been plotting and planning for years. And, these things, like, maybe it's a little bit more expensive than anticipated, because I don't know if, as he started plotting and planning, he anticipated Jalen Williams, the wing, being
potentially getting a supermax.
Yeah. But pretty good problems to have.
I will say this, Paolo Banchero signed his max contract with the Magic last week, and he was the first player in 3 years to get a player option on a max contract, a rookie scale max contract. And that trend got halted by the Thunder. Holmgren and Williams got halted. Also, one minor thing, Chet Holmgren does not have the escalators in his contract. So were Chet Holmgren, for example, to win Defensive Player of the Year, you win Defensive Player of the Year, you become Supermax eligible. This just happened with Evan Mobley. Mobley signed his extension. He got a Defensive Player of the Year escalator in it. He wins Defensive Player of the Year. He also made All-NBA, so he would have gotten it that way. But the Cavs have to spend a lot more money. Chet did not get that. So for the Thunder to get no options, even though Banchero had, in theory, set the tone for that class, they did get those quote unquote wins. But ultimately, they've got rings, and that's the most important win of all, as we know here. When you win a championship, it means never saying you're sorry. And if they have to say sorry in 3 years because they paid these guys big much, they'll still have the ring and the banner. So,
what if you win multiple championships?
You can say a couple more things.
Yes.
We had some good and interesting news on Monday. Victor Wembanyama told L'Équipe in France that he had been cleared over the weekend. Actually, Friday, he was, I believe, MacMahon, he was in Las Vegas, right? Wasn't he at these games?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he just walked right in the, during that game. And big guy, can't really miss him as he's walking his courtside seat.
Well, he apparently saw the Spurs medical staff in Vegas, just back from Tokyo. He's made 2 trips to Asia this offseason that we're aware of. I mean, one to China and one to Japan. He was dancing in a Japanese club last week. I saw some video from that. But anyway, the point is he has been cleared to resume basketball activities.
Now, wasn't he doing like bicycle kicks and stuff?
Yeah. So look, I don't.
And training with monks.
Yeah, I don't exactly 100% know all of the stuff, so I'm not going to, say. I would say this, as somebody who had a blood clot years ago, typically you would not be able to be cleared for that stuff if the doctors weren't pretty sure you were not going to fall and have internal bleeding. So
as you were returning from your blood clots, were you doing bicycle kicks?
I was able to cut those out of my my routine, so it was hard. But so my guess is he had already been in a good spot from potentially off blood thinning medication.
Yeah.
But he has been vague about whether he had surgery for this or not. So maybe he'll clarify that later on. The Spurs from the start were confident that he would be cleared to return. So this is what's important. He has been cleared. He's going to be able to start playing basketball again, which MacMahon is good because it's only July. Like, he shouldn't be able to get I'm sure they're going to be careful with him, but he should be able to get several months of court work coming into the season. So I'm sure they'll, not let him play 48 minutes, but
sure. 2.5 months though of real off-season basketball work. Has there been any clarity on his potential participation in Eurobasket for France?
that is a really
Not
good
that I've
question.
seen.
Now, Bontemps mentioned last week that Kristaps Porzingis reaffirmed he intends to play for Latvia. Latvia, by the way, a sneaky contender to win,
Yeah,
or at least to
they got
be
a good
competitive.
squad.
Yeah. Also, the Final Four is in Latvia.
I didn't even. I knew it was in
Yes,
3 different
so
countries. I knew it was Poland.
yeah. Well, yeah, the group plays in different spots, but the final rounds are in Latvia. So, some extra motivation for
Right.
Porzingis to play. This would be Wemby's Eurobasket debut, but whether he plays in that or not, obviously great news that he's going to be in basketball activities for 2.5 months heading into camp. No reason to think anything other than he's going to be, ready to roll and in great form come the start of the season. And the Spurs are a very interesting team. I don't know what the over-under would be. I don't know if we can go a little double or nothing. I believe I've probably chipped away at that dinner bet, despite the the fact that Wemby not playing 50 games waved it off. But they've got some really interesting pieces. Obviously made the big deal for De'Aaron Fox, Stephen Castle, Rookie of the Year, Stephon Castle, Rookie of the Year, I should say. And man, Bontemps, we were in the arena the other day for the little bit of summer league action that Dylan Harper got, but it was a pretty good, whatever it was, 18, 19 minutes of action. That, lo and behold, the number 2 overall pick looks like a guy who can make an instant impact.
Yeah, I think he had 16 points in 18, 19 minutes. It was his first game since February or March, the beginning of March, playing for Rutgers. Hadn't done anything really since then. Missed the first couple summer league games with a groin injury in California and in Vegas. But yeah, he I think he's going to be awfully good. I'm very curious to see what happens with the Spurs this year, because they do have obviously some present day talent with Victor and De'Aaron Fox. Jackson says the over under is 43.5. I mean,
that's interesting.
That's a pretty good line. They do have a lot of fit issues to sort out. I don't really know if De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, and Stephon Castle long term make sense to all be on the same team, which is an interesting thing to sort out. It's so I'm very curious to see what that looks like. So they do have some real questions to answer with their team, but they go hire Sean Sweeney this summer. They very clearly, Victor is clearly going to be coming in this season expecting to win games. They have the ability to move money around to go add more pieces if they want, if they choose to. Their situation and how they approach this season and what they look like in year 3 with Victor is going to be very interesting on a lot of fronts. And, they made the De'Aaron Fox trade. I think those guys played like I don't even think
5
they played
games.
I was going to say, I knew it was 5 games. I don't even think it was 100 minutes on the court together. So, they're basically going to be starting from scratch with that partnership too. So there's just a lot of stuff in San Antonio to get sorted out. And I mean, obviously we haven't even really hardly talked about it, but, mentioned Sean Sweeney. He's going to be coaching under Mitch Johnson, who is officially the successor to Greg Popovich. And, even though he was the interim coach for a lot of last season, it's a different thing when you're fully in the job and you come in from training camp and you're the guy replacing Greg Popovich with that team. So they are going to be one of the most interesting teams in the league next year. And it is going to be fun to see what that group ultimately looks like on the court, because I think they expect that they're going to start winning games. And, as we've talked about a ton, the West is really, really hard.
There is a report out of Europe today, by the way. I just looked that he still is not planning on playing in Eurobasket. Okay. I don't know if that's a definitive thing, but I just wanted to follow up on that. Sorry.
Yeah, gotcha. No, it's good to know.
I was when we were out in Vegas, talked to some Spurs folks and basically saying, hey, how do these guards fit together? Obviously, De'Aaron Fox, a guy that made a big swing out in the trade market, and then, a number 4 overall pick who just Rookie of the Year in Castle, and Harper, the number 2 overall pick, and they're all kind of lead guards. but I didn't get a whole sense of concern about the fit. It's basically like, hey, 2 guard spots, 96 minutes, 3 guys, they're all going to play. And then you kind of figure that out as you go. But they've got some real depth on this team now. Devin Vassell, quality player. Keldon Johnson coming off the bench. Harrison Barnes still there. Jeremy Sohan, and then added Carter Bryant. We'll see how much he plays as a rookie. And then went out and added a couple big men this summer in Luke Cornett and Kelly Olynyk, who they just traded for. And it's the sense around the Spurs is like, hey, it's time to make a jump. It's time to really be a competitive team. Now, what exactly that means at the end of the season in this loaded Western Conference, they might be a very competitive team that doesn't get a playoff spot. Like, that's possible. But, they definitely they need to make a big stride forward this season for sure.
2 things with the Spurs to keep an eye on going forward, in addition to what you guys talked about. One, De'Aaron Fox is extension eligible. He cannot extend until August 3rd. We've talked a lot about Luka Doncic. His extension date is August 2nd. Fox can't till August 3rd. So we'll see in the month about whether or not that gets done. They can give him another max and give him up to $230 million. There was an expectation that when they traded for him and they sent 3 firsts for him to Sacramento, that would be their intention. You can't just hand out, auto max contracts these days. So let's just see how that goes. Maybe that's what they'll do. I don't know. The other thing that is important for them going forward is you mentioned Olynyk and Harrison Barnes. Both of them are on expiring contracts. You slap them together and you got almost $33 million between the 2 of them. You put in Sohan in there, you get up to 40. Not that they could extend Sohan this offseason if they want to. Now, right now, I would say that there isn't anybody they should be trying to trade for, but they have extra picks. They have young players. They have the ability with what's on their roster that if they want to go big game hunting, they can. That's one of the reasons why you saw Kevin Durant put them on there on the list, on his short list for where he would like to go. If they were interested, they ended up not making a serious bid. So just keep that in mind when you think about the Spurs going forward.
Can I ask you a question that I don't think you would get a straight answer from Spurs folks about?
Sure, there's quite a few things you wouldn't, but go ahead.
Do you think they would have traded for De'Aaron Fox had they known they were going to land second in the lottery and get Dylan Harper?
No, I don't think they would have. But also, it's they also weren't going to know that.
I mean, there's no way to know it. But it's interesting because they obviously traded for Fox, thinking, hey, here's a guy approaching his prime who can be the long-term fit next to Wemby. and then they got a guy in Harper who could be the longer term.
Well, I would say this. This is why the Fox extension becomes something you've got to just do some work on, in my view. Maybe they'll just give him the max and they'll move on. But let's say Harper turns out to be the stud that many people think that he is.
Mm-hmm.
And you get into a situation where you have an excess guard. Maybe Fox and Wemby work together great and you would not dream of it. I'm just saying that, but this is the way you got to think if you're a front office.
Yeah.
You don't want to sign Fox to a contract that if you have interest in a year or so to trade him, that it becomes an issue.
Right.
And I mean, how do you know? You don't know. I mean, Fox could be an all-star again this year. And maybe Dylan Harper turns out to be a very good player, but not great player. Maybe that's not the way to do it. You got to get him into a contract because he's headed for free agency. Otherwise, you want to get him signed. And there's going to be a lot of space next year. And unlike this year, where only 2 teams really had significant space, next year, Bobby was telling us, depending on how things go, there could be more than 10 with significant space. And, you do not want De'Aaron Fox as a free agent in that situation. So you do need to get him into a contract. But, Bontemps and I have talked about this for months. there needs to be, Bontemps has been calling out teams that are not doing negotiations. They're just giving guys extensions. This is why you got to negotiate everything. Even if you love the player and you want to keep the player, you just can't auto give, the most amount of money. You've got to negotiate. It is just the responsible thing to do for these teams. So
you have to in the new environment. There's just no wiggle room anymore, because even if you want to spend all the money, there's other costs that come with it beyond just spending the owner's money. So it just makes it very difficult to keep building the team. But yeah, look, I mean, I think if they knew they were getting Dylan Harper, they wouldn't have invested draft picks in getting another lead guard. They would have just got Dylan Harper and probably went and found other pieces to try to put around those guys to build out the roster. I mean, this is a team that is pretty weak on the wing. They don't have, like, Luke Cornett's a nice backup center, but the 3-4 spots are not where I think they need to be for these guys to be a real threat to, be a top 16 probably in the West. So they do have some other stuff to do, but they've got a lot of stuff they can move around. They got a lot of interesting pieces to fit together. And like I said, it's going to be a very fun puzzle on a lot of levels to watch how they operate this year, to see how these guys all fit. And I mean, I don't remember if we talked about it before or not, but Carter Bryant is a hell of a defensive player already, and he might end up just starting right off the bat. I mean, that's not a sourced thing. That's just me watching. But
I'd be surprised if Vassell doesn't start, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, but he's kind of a 2. Like, that's the thing. Like, he's not even, I don't know if he's big enough to really be a 3. Like that, they just have they got a lot of questions to answer across the board. But the good thing is they got a lot of talent to do it with, and it is going to be a fun jigsaw puzzle to see how Mitch Johnson tries to put it together and puts the pieces out on the court, and hopefully Victor is out there doing his thing again.
If they're a top 6 seed in the West, Wemby will be an MVP candidate. I'll go out on that limb.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that too.
By the way, 120 minutes with Fox and Wemby on the floor together.
Oh, okay.
A negative net rating, but that's obviously tiny sample size.
So this has been a tough 3 weeks for the restricted free agents of this class. This is the 2021 draft class, that guys that did not get extended before that got to free agency. So some guys got paid from this class last summer. Cade Cunningham got a max. Evan Mobley got a max. Scotty Barnes got a max. Franz Wagner got a max. That's 4 guys in the top 8 got maxes. Alperen Şengün got a lot of money. Trey Murphy got a lot of money. Jalen Johnson got a lot of money. And earlier this year, Santi Aldama, who was really the only guy of the restricted guys who's gotten paid so far, got well paid. So
Jalen Green got a pretty nice chunk of money, but not a long-term deal.
Correct. He got paid. I should clarify that he did get paid over $30 million. So Jalen Suggs also got a very good contract. So this a lot of this class has been taken care of. If you go back and look a year earlier in the 2020 draft, I think there were 4 guys who got maxes. That would be Ann Edwards, LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton, and Des Bane, who was the 30th pick. And a bunch of guys from that draft have gotten paid really well. Jaden McDaniels being one, Emmanuel Quickly being one. Oh, Tyrese Maxey, he got a max too. So there's five in that. And then the 2022 class, which is the guys who are getting paid this summer, we've already seen Paolo Banchero get a max, the number 1 pick. Chet Holmgren, the number 2 pick, get a max. And we've seen Jalen Williams 12 got a max. Jabari Smith Jr. got very good money. He was the number 3 pick, and some of the other guys are going to get paid too. But the 2021 draft, these are the guys who got sort of stuck, and primarily Josh Giddey, Jonathan Kuminga, and Quentin Grimes. And I guess you would put Cam Thomas from the Nets in there. So we talked to the pod.
I would not put Cam Thomas from the Nets.
Cam Thomas is out there. So, of the guys from this summer who have gotten taken care of from that draft, Davion Mitchell did get a contract from the Heat, but he's been traded around a little bit. Quentin Grimes has been traded twice, for that matter. But I do hear
Grimes was traded 3 times.
3 times, right? Yeah.
Knicks,
New York to
Pistons,
Detroit to Dallas
Pistons,
to Philly.
Mavs. Yeah.
That's right. So, all right. So what I am suspecting here is, these guys are going to have decisions. They're all going to have decisions coming up about whether or not they want to take the qualifying offer, which is when you sign a qualifying offer, all of them have to have qualifying offers. Otherwise, they're not restricted. If you sign the qualifying offer, you get an automatic no trade clause, because if you get traded, the team loses the bird rights, so they can't pay you no matter what. So that's why you get an implied no trade clause, so you have control over that.
Yeah.
And so the team, you control whether you get traded, and you also are at odds with the team. There are examples in NBA history where a player has signed a qualifying offer and things have gone okay and he stayed with the team, but most of the time it signals that this is the beginning of the end with the team. So there's also the possibility that there are offers that these guys will be forced to accept. Now, I talked earlier about how this summer was nuclear winter for free agents, especially for restricted guys, because there was only 2 teams with significant space. Next summer, there's theoretically a lot more. There's some reasoning for saying, okay, I choose free agency next year. Let's just roll it over and try again. And the qualifying offers are all pretty good money. You get a pretty good bump on what you were going to make last year. Let me just take a look at what Kuminga's is off the top of my head, because I think it's pretty good money. Not what he's hoping to get paid, obviously, but it's not something that you're really being penalized for.
But I mean, it's a pretty hard sell to take the qualifying offer over the real offer. I think for any of those guys.
You want to just go kind of case by case here, maybe starting with Kuminga?
All right.
I mean, I think we should do Grimes first just because it's easy. Like, he's restricted with Philly. I have thought the whole summer this is going to end with him signing a probably 2 or 3 year deal for a little bit over the mid-level. And there's not really a reason for it to get done any sooner, because there's not anybody else who can offer him a deal. And that's a fair offer. Philly
His qualifying offer is $8.7 million. That's what he would be taking.
Yeah,
Grimes.
Yes,
and he has not made very much money in his career. He's drafted, I think, 25th in the first round. So if he gets something like 3 for 45, something in that ballpark, it's a little over the mid-level, and he gets out in free agency again pretty early. Like, I think that's a deal that makes sense for everybody. And my guess is he eventually signs that with Philly and he's there.
Yeah, and it was out there that he wanted something like $25 million a year. That's just not realistic. Like, hey, he put up good numbers for Philly, but he put up good numbers when somebody had to score, and he was efficient doing it. But come on, like, you're not getting paid off of putting up some numbers for a team that's losing every night.
Not in a market when nobody has any space.
And his negotiations with the Mavericks last year, he wanted basically a full mid-level deal. The Mavericks were more in that like $8 to $9 million range. They wanted to give him something like Najee Marshall's contract, which is 3 for 27. That was a big factor in the thinking of the Mavericks trading him for Cody Martin, who's on the deal right in that $9 million per year range. Now, that deal blew up in the Mavericks' face. Cody Martin was hurt at the time. Caleb Martin. Yeah. I, of all people, should get my twins straight. Although they're identical, so it's more confusing. Anyways, the deal blew up in the Mavericks' face for a variety of reasons. It pushed them right up against the thing where they couldn't even sign a guy to another 10 days, so on and so forth. And it looked really bad because Grimes was putting up a ton of points for Philly. But I'm just telling you, like, there were Mavericks coaches who were not happy with another trade that the team made and weren't shy to let me know about it. None of the Mavericks coaches were upset about the trade for the Grimes for Martin trade. They didn't really value Grimes long term, which is a long-winded way of saying if he's getting something around the mid-level, I think that would be a good deal for him.
Yeah, and if he gets over the mid-level a little bit, as Bontemps said, it incentivizes him to sign it because that's more than anybody's probably going to offer him at this point. Josh Giddey's qualifying offer is $11 million. his situation is, when he got playing time towards the end of the season, when they had the injuries, he put up really good numbers. And I'm sure his position is, well, play me starters minutes and I'll continue to put up good numbers.
Yeah, he's never had a problem putting numbers up. That's
true.
That's not the issue.
Well, and the
issue is
thing
defensively.
well, and also like, hey, Josh Giddey, to be productive, needs to be the primary ball handler, which for the Bulls right now, he's in a situation where that will be his role. Now, what's the ceiling on a team if Josh Giddey is your primary ball handler? I do think there's a ceiling there. However, all of these things, it's not like this is something that's just been discovered over the last year, the last 6 months. Like you didn't know any of this stuff before you traded Alex Caruso straight up in a deal where the reaction from anybody who knew anything about the NBA said, hold on, they didn't get any picks in that deal? The Bulls got no picks? Seriously? So if you valued him so much that you traded Alex Caruso straight up for him, how are you going to tell him you don't value him that much during contract negotiations?
Well, I mean, there's valuing him and there's giving him exactly what he wants. And I suspect, again, here, I would be surprised if there isn't a deal that's struck at some point between Giddey and the Bulls. I just, the question I think is it going to be something in the $20 to $25 million range or is it going to be something, well north of that? I mean,
at 30. And that from what I hear, that's kind of the difference in the discussions right now.
And look, Josh Giddey's a talented player. I wouldn't want to sign him to either deal because, to your point, you're sort of signing yourself up to be a 35 and 47 team if you have him as your main engine of your offense, which is right about where the Bulls were last year and probably will be going forward if they have him doing that. But he is a talented player. If you do believe in him continuing to grow and improve, like somewhere in the $20 to $25 million range is probably a reasonable deal for everybody. Again, like I would assume that gets done at some point and that he doesn't sign the qualifying offer. But to Brian's initial point, Josh Giddey has put up a lot of numbers and, I think there's a belief that he's got a chance to be a high level player. And so I could see him saying, well, I was the 6th pick in the draft. I've made a decent amount of money. I get another $11 million. There's a lot of cap space next summer. I'll take my chances. Like that one, I think there's at least more plausibility to that than the Grimes one. But I would still be pretty surprised if he didn't eventually.
Yeah, because he's even if it's the numbers the Bulls are putting out there, it's nearing $100 million total value. It's at least in the upper.
Yeah. Well, and he's he's sort of the same thing as Grimes. Like if you're a young guy like that, get 80, 90, $100 million guaranteed in your pocket and then be a free agent again at 26 or 27 and then go try to get another one. Like,
I wish I could tell you I knew what the Bulls' plan was. I do not.
That's been the case. The plan has been to be the 10 seed for years.
And third place in 3-team trades.
They are in position to have a lot of cap space in 26 because Nikola Vucevic, Zach Collins, Kevin Huerter are all in the last year of their contracts. I assume they want to keep Kobe White. It's not likely he gets extended because his number is so low, but he's on the last year of his contract. If they wanted to.
Just so fans know what you're saying, he's currently making $12.8 million this year. Right. He's had a really good couple of years. He's outplayed his deal. And under the rules of the current CBA, you can only bump a guy up a certain amount of money. So it's unlikely the Bulls, they could probably offer him somewhere around like 3 for 60, maybe a little bit higher than that. And I don't think that would be enough to get Kobe extended.
Yeah. The Bulls would right now, I mean, they did sign Trey Jones to be a backup point guard for them. They gave him 2 years guaranteed. They're in position to have $60+ million in cap space next year, if that's what they want to do. And if they want to keep that flexibility, because they know they're not going to be able to extend Kobe White anyway, they could just squeeze Giddey into the into the qualifying offer, and then they could just really have a bunch of space. Because if they sign Giddey, it limits their. Now, what are they going to do with that space? That's another question.
Well, and that
altogether
also
I can't
depends on the
answer.
number too. I mean, if he signs for a deal starting at like 21, it costs him $10 million of space in theory. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So then you've got Jonathan Kuminga. This one's a tough one because obviously he has butted heads repeatedly with Steve Kerr. And the idea that they're going to be able to go through a season together, no matter what the situation is, and be hunky-dory, I would think is a hard belief. At the same time, the Warriors have made it clear that they value him as an asset, and they are simply just not going to give him away. If you come to them with a sign and trade offer, as I think they've had a little bit of interest in, including from the Kings, they are not going to just do it to send him away. They're going to want something to really help them. And I think they would like I think in the opposite of the Bulls, where I'm suspecting that there'd be some interest in the qualifying offer from them. By the way, Kuminga's is around $8 million, his qualifier. I think the Warriors would prefer, as long as it wasn't crushing them on the tax, I think the Warriors would prefer to get Kuminga into a contract that they could move, similar to what they did a few years ago with D'Angelo Russell.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's that. I mean, that was a little different because of the Durant deal. I think the obvious analog to this is the guy MacMahon brought up earlier, is Jalen Green. And I don't think that Kuminga's getting the same amount of money as Jalen Green for a variety of reasons. The Warriors are going to need to avoid the second apron. We all expect them at some point to get Al Horford signed. So, there's somewhere in the low 20s is probably the limit of what they could really realistically go to this year and get him signed. Using the tax pyramid level exception, it would hard cap them at the second apron. But yeah, they would like to have him, I'm sure, under contract. So to your point, as you said earlier, correctly, if you sign the qualifying offer, all of a sudden you can't be traded. The whole point of having Kuminga around this year would be to turn him into something else. I mean, I think there is still some belief with the Warriors that he could still become a guy that fits there, but
not from the coach.
No. I agree. I mean, what I'm saying is I think everybody agrees that would probably be the thing that makes the most sense. But again, the problem is you're in a market where there's not a lot of cap space. There's not a lot of teams that are banging down the door to get them. And so it probably makes sense for everybody to do a shorter term deal of some kind. Again, a 2 or 3 year, like the Jalen Green deal, a 2 or 3 year deal, probably 3-year deal at somewhere in the 20s, and get him a bunch of money. And he's still a young guy. He'd get back out to free agency early. And, they would be motivated to put him in good positions to succeed this year and give him a chance to showcase himself some. And I think that situation could work out pretty well for everybody. Because, look, if there was a good sign and trade available, to your point, Brian, he wouldn't be on the Warriors right now. We wouldn't be talking about it. Right? Like, if there was somebody out there saying, we got to get Jonathan Kuminga, this would probably be done already. But there isn't. So at some point, I think it makes sense for everybody to come together and find some number that's palatable and try this again in January and February.
Well, maybe something materializes with the Kings or another team, but I definitely think the most likely scenario is this thing plays out similar to what you're talking about. And then, the Jalen Green contract was a 3-year deal, the third year being a player option, that kind of a short-term deal that is designed to be traded. As much as the Rockets deny that deal was designed to be traded, what happened? It was traded, right? Now, I think with Kuminga, though, it would be designed to be traded December 15th, like as soon as he's eligible. And because here's the thing. Steve Kerr has made it crystal clear, like, this ain't reading between the lines. It's not sources said. This is Steve Kerr repeatedly on the record saying Kuminga does not fit with Steph and Jimmy. And if you didn't believe what he said, the guy was DNP-CD in the playoffs several times.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do that kind of a deal and basically you're trying to flip him as quickly as possible, for value, you've got to play him for the first couple months of the season. You don't have to put him in the starting lineup, but you got to put him in the rotation. You got to put him in a situation to be showcased. but I think that's probably it's not the ideal scenario for anybody, for Kuminga, for Kerr, for the Warriors, but I do think it's the best case realistic scenario, the way that there just has not been a market that's materialized for him, um, given the circumstances of restricted free agency and the lack of cap space.
Ramona Shelburne and I wrote a story on the Lakers that came out the end of last week. Really, it discussed the limbo that the Lakers are in right now as they navigate moving from a LeBron James centric team to a Luka Doncic centric team. And the story generated quite a bit of reaction. And I would just want to say that the thrust of this situation the Lakers are in is not really controversial.
Mhm.
It's uncomfortable. Okay. Because it's not controversial for an organization to look at a 40-year-old superstar and a 27-year-old superstar and say, we need to lean into the 27-year-old. It's not controversial,
26.
26. Well, 27 next season, but yeah, 26. I guess if I'm going to call him 27, I should call LeBron 41. It's not controversial necessarily if both players are in the position where they've got 1 year left on their contract, that you would prioritize getting the 26-year-old into that new contract as opposed to extending the 41-year-old. That is, in a vacuum, those are not controversial things that the Lakers have done. But as I said, it is uncomfortable. And it is certainly uncomfortable for LeBron, who has never been in this situation before and didn't see it coming. And
going back to February.
Right. And so, while, and like, by the way, like, I'm not sure that even no matter what LeBron produces this year, that extending him at the max for close to $60 million next year, having a 41 turning 42-year-old is a good usage of money. Like, I don't think that's controversial. I'm not saying that he wouldn't.
I think
have
it would be a good
value.
usage of money for a lot of teams, but this goes back to the fundamental problem the Lakers have had for a long time, which is that they just aren't a very good team outside of their top couple of players, and they need to fully overhaul the roster, which is the same situation they've been in, frankly, since the moment they made the Russell Westbrook trade. They've never really gotten out of this situation where they had AD and LeBron and not enough help for years, and now they have Luka and LeBron and not enough help. And it's hard from the situation they're in with no draft picks and no real flexibility to add around Luka and LeBron without subtracting some money and figuring out a way to reshuffle the roster. And there's just not for a lot of teams, yes, re-signing a top 10 or 15 player in the league to the max, even if it's for 1 year, would be a good idea. But they're not a lot of teams.
And I think, here's one more thing. I'm sorry, MacMahon. I think the Lakers contributed to the discomfort by not bringing LeBron in on the Luka trade. And I understand why they did it, but I'm just saying it contributed to the discomfort. And LeBron contributed to the discomfort when instead of just picking up his option and saying, all right, I'm going year to year, we'll see you in September, Rich Paul made these statements that were very open-ended, left open to interpretation, and just made it clear that he wasn't necessarily thrilled about the direction of the Lakers. So both sides have contributed, and there's been a bunch of little minor things, but both sides have contributed to a bit of a frost developing there. But I don't think it's a situation where the Lakers are like looking to get rid of him, or do I think LeBron is looking to get out of there? I just think they're in this uncomfortable situation. I'm sorry, MacMahon, go ahead.
No, and you're obviously closer to this than either Bontemps or I, and the reporting on that. Everybody should read that story, but LeBron at this point wants this to be an uncomfortable situation. In fact, the whole point of Rich Paul's statement coming right after he opts into the last year of his contract is to create discomfort. Now, what exactly the end game is, those guys are extremely intelligent people who understand the way that NBA business works and understand just how difficult any kind of a trade that would make sense for all three parties, the two teams and LeBron, would be to pull off. The idea of LeBron getting a buyout from the Lakers at a number of $52.6 million is, I don't know, man, like stranger things have happened, I guess.
I want to just be clear. The reason people are thinking about a buyout is because trading LeBron is very challenging. And it was like, well, wait a minute. If he's not uncomfortable or if he's not comfortable with their direction, what's his other alternative? To get off of a team, there's only two alternatives. You can be released or you can be traded. And so I think part of it is a vacuum. There's a vacuum, right, and people are stepping into the vacuum. So that's all.
Well, the vacuum that LeBron via Rich Paul has created, and LeBron,
that's true,
when given a chance to clarify the situation,
and that the Lakers have created, because again, I have been waiting for Jeannie Buss or Mark Walter or Rob Pelinka or JJ Redick or anybody to say, we're thrilled LeBron has opted in and we'll see you in September. Anybody.
Yeah.
Can we, I don't need the statement, the team statement, but I'd like somebody at some point to say, this is great. We'll see you in the fall. So far,
LeBron is continuing
Rich Paul
his
isn't
career.
saying it. Right. LeBron isn't saying it. JJ Redick isn't saying it. Rob Pelinka isn't saying it. Jeannie Buss. So that's why we have to keep doing this.
And this weekend,
nobody has said it.
And this weekend, LeBron came to a Lakers Summer League game. Dave MacMahon went over and asked him if he wanted to talk about anything in the wake of Rich's comments, and he said basically no comment.
I ain't got nothing to talk about.
And then Rich went on the radio and did another non sequitur statement. I mean,
Rich basically
everybody's doing the same. Everybody's doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, Rich said he had no interest in clarifying anything, and the Lakers have been, as you said, completely mum. But here's the thing. LeBron, throughout the course of his career, has always been able to apply pressure on the franchises that he played for, because he always had the threat of his departure, right? LeBron has always had the ultimate power. He's always had all the leverage. And now LeBron doesn't have the power and the leverage because the threat of his departure next summer is not really a threat to the Lakers, because it certainly appears that it's part of the plan for the Lakers. So LeBron's ability to apply pressure to go all in on this season, like he's done throughout the course of his career, is non-existent at this point.
I would still also like to know what the grand plan is to build a contending team around Luka.
That's what Ramon and I wrote about. Rob Pelinka presented him with some plan at their exit meeting, and I don't know for sure what was in it. I just know that Rob went in with a binder and Luka left with literature. So he presented him something, and obviously it'll be more formal whenever
some are reading Ljubljana, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and Luka, to his credit, certainly appears to be doing his part in terms of accepting JJ Redick's challenge of getting his butt in shape. He's definitely a lot slimmer. He's definitely getting that revenge bod going. I
love the revenge bod. You should trademark that. Revenge bod.
Like I said, that's an IT department phrase. Now, she's doing just fine. She doesn't need to get revenge on me. She's, everything's great, just to be clear, including the body. But Rob Pelinka's got to roll up the sleeves on that cool leather jacket and get to work, man. And
by the way,
I think Pelinka wisely it's a long, patient approach, because you can't microwave this thing. You can't just snap his fingers and create a championship team this year.
When you were talking crazy stuff about underwear and stuff at the live show the other day, and Bontemps was slamming his head into the microphone, he hit his head with the microphone so many times he left a red mark on his head.
Good.
You damaged him with your...
I'm glad.
Yeah.
He's been damaging my brain for a long time. So what else is new?
Okay, a couple things before we go. Number one, congratulations to Kobe Altman in his front office with the Cavs corner. He just got a contract extension. In a move that I did not see coming. Fred VanVleet, who was not on the executive committee of the Players Association. Typically, when you see a new president, I've seen a handful in my time. CJ McCollum's term ended. Fred VanVleet of the Rockets, now the new president of the Players Association.
He'll be the guy helming the next CBA negotiations. So
helming, good verb. Good verb.
Yeah, try.
Also, podcast announcement. We are officially in the off season pod mode. So we are as Bontemps is, flying across the Atlantic and doing pods at all hours of the day with no sleep. We are going to get down to 2 a week starting now.
Yes.
It will come out Tuesdays and Fridays.
Barring the need for extras at some point.
Emergency pods as necessary if circumstances arise.
Yeah, that's all.
For sure.
Hopefully they don't.
Thank you to our man Jackson, who was helming the operation in Vegas the other night.
Jackson got himself on stage the other day.
I was going to say, man, he's got a little stage presence. He's got Zoom fright. He doesn't have stage fright.
That's right. He was good. All right. Thank you to Jackson. Thank you to MacMahon. Thank you to Bontemps from Portugal. Thank you for listening and watching the Hoop Collective. We will talk to you later this week.
Adios, amigos.